What's going on, everybody? This is Drew here. I want to welcome you all to a brand new episode of Phoenix Down. This is Phoenix Down episode 104.1, and we're continuing our playthrough of Assassin's Creed Origins. Today I have with me Matt.
Hello.
And yeah, we're going to keep on keeping on here. So, the last thing we talked about was we had accidentally killed everybody that was on our hit list. Well, I wouldn't say accidentally. We had a lot more on there, but we didn't realize that Bayek's wife had killed two of the guys, so that shortened our list a little bit there. But we're not done by a long shot because, Bayek's wife has secretly been working with a few people, particularly the exiled queen, Cleopatra herself, has been basically trying to come up with a way to get rid of this shadowy group of people. And we get invited to meet with Cleopatra to talk about said shadowy group. And it's you can tell this is kind of like the beginning parts of the Assassins and the Templars.
Yeah.
It plays out a lot like that. It feels like to me like they're getting ready for the introduction of this kind of thing. Obviously, this is the origin story, I would assume, of the Assassins. So, yeah.
Pretty good name, then. Game name.
I'm trying to think, God, what was it called? The Ancient Ones or something? What is she called, the group? The Order of the Ancients?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And the people that we killed were just some of the smaller people in this larger order. And this order is actually the ones that's kind of pulling the strings. So Ptolemy is basically just a puppet in their game. Everybody thinks he's just ruling the countryside with an iron fist, but it's actually he's taking orders from this order. And in the process exiled Cleopatra, so she's no longer ruling, and Cleopatra decided to join up with the Greeks to basically have an alliance to go against Ptolemy. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, Ptolemy is Greek, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, because wasn't all the kingdoms that Alexander the Great took over were divided between a bunch of his subordinates, and one of them was Ptolemy? Am I forgetting I feel like I'm forgetting my ancient history for some reason. I think that's the case. I can't remember. Maybe somebody who's listening to this can shed some light, or maybe I just need to go to Wikipedia. But I'm pretty sure Ptolemy was one of Alexander the Great's subordinates.
Yep, one of the successor kings.
There you go. I mean, obviously, Alexander the Great was years and years and years and years and years previous. I don't think this is the same Ptolemy. I think this is like Ptolemy the third or fourth or something like that. So yeah, I guess she has Greek help. I don't know. But she gives us another list. That's the most important thing. She gives us another hit list. Wants to take out these guys who have been basically instructed to be almost like mayors of these regions or governors of these regions, who are trying to take them over in many different ways. So you have code names, all the code names. So you have the scarab, you have the hyena, you have the lizard, you have the crocodile, and there's one more, right? Or is there just 4?
There's just 4.
There's just 4. Okay. So,
Yep.
yeah. And you do them in that order. You do scarab, hyena, lizard, then crocodile. And we're tasked with figuring out who these guys are. We know the general area that they have been sent to kind of take over, but we do not know who these people are. So we got to figure out who they are and then, well, take them down. So, obviously, via the quests that we have, the suggested levels for these things are told to us. And obviously, you can't take on the crocodile because, well, that's like, I think it's like level 28, they suggest that. And at the current moment, I'm
28. I was like, oh man, usually 1 or 2 levels I can get through with some side missions, but we were, 18 at that point?
Somewhere around in there, yeah. If you take on an enemy that's 3 levels higher than you, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, this game doesn't mess around with its levels. So I got those 4 quests to take out those targets and said, nope, I'm going to the pyramids.
Yeah, I started to get really excited when, when you see them, when you then see them in your panoramics, when you're at the viewpoints, when it splashes on my screen and tells me that I'm at the Sphinx, I'm in Giza, and I'm like, holy crap. This is like real. I'm here. It's the closest I've ever been.
So that's what ended up happening. I immediately said, I'm going to the pyramids and I'm going to climb them. So I just jumped on a camel and took off toward the pyramids. Made it to the pyramid and climbed it. I got the viewpoint on top of the one pyramid that's there. I found some tombs that I could go into, and I was like, I'll come back to those later. I just want to do some exploring right now. And I accidentally ran into the Sphinx. I didn't know that was where I was, but I heard Bayek say, oh, there's the Great Sphinx. It's a lot smaller than I thought it would be. I was like, haha, that's funny. So I climbed on its face, tried to break off its nose, stuff like that. And I landed behind it. And he said, oh, a hidden entrance. I was like, what? So I climbed into the Sphinx and went down into this underground tomb and came upon this room. Did you do this, Matt?
No, I didn't do this yet. I climbed the pyramids, but I haven't climbed the Sphinx.
Okay. So I have to talk about this because this is what I did this entire play session. So I went into the Sphinx. There's a tomb up under. There is a room that is like a dome room. So it's like a dome ceiling. Mm-hmm. And it had one shining beam of light coming down onto this map of the entire region. And I was like, oh, crap, we got some Indiana Jones stuff here.
Yep. That seems pretty cool.
And I was like, all right. And I looked up at the light, and it was a constellation. And I was like, oh, shit. I've only got one constellation so far in this game. I wonder what happens if I get all the constellations and come back here. So I proceeded.
It's an endpoint.
Yes. So I proceeded to go find all the constellations. Let me tell you something. And I have no problem saying this. I use the fact for this because it's going to take forever to find them.
Yep. I've got, I think, 4.
So there's 12 in all. This took me about 4 hours. Where
Damn.
I knew exactly where to go. But I had to travel the entire map to get to them. I traveled the entire map, got all of the constellations. I then returned back to the Sphinx. Now something else happens. I activate this table that then opens up and I can go even farther in. And Bayek says, I don't know what this is. This is not Egyptian. He slides down into this gigantic chamber. I'm talking, it's huge. And it's made of some kind of weird material that I don't think exists in this world. And you come up to this pedestal, and it says you need 50 silica to open this. Now, Matt, do you know what silica is?
Within the game?
Yes.
Yeah, we've seen it once or twice in the game so far. It was the... It was the hyena that had a bunch of it, right?
Yes, you're correct. So, silica is a compound in this game. It's almost like a currency. And it glows and it has a mystical aura to it, is what the description says. And I have ran into a few places that require you to use silica to activate something. Where do you find silica? Well, you find it in tombs. There's usually about 4 or 5 pieces of silica just lying around in tombs throughout the entire tomb while you're solving the puzzle. Now, I really wanted to know what happens when I put 50 silica in this thing. So I then proceeded to do probably about 30 tombs.
Holy crap.
I ran around this entire...
You must have some kind of tangent in this session.
I went on a mission.
That's amazing.
A mission from Moon himself. And I went to not all the tombs, but I went to tons of tombs and got silica. Along my journey, I ran into a specific tomb that was crazy. So there is 2 tombs that are next to each other. And I can't remember what region it is in, but you'll know it when you see it because it looks like a giant crack in the ground. And it's probably about 4 stories deep. I dropped down in there, and there's a lot of silica there, so I collected it. And then there's also another one of those chambers where you can activate by putting silica in. Well, this chamber required 5 silica. And I said, later. I'm going to keep my silica for whatever this big 50 thing is. So, needless to say, I got 50 silica. I activated the mechanism. I think it's called the ancient mechanism. And I got a cutscene of a person talking. So it's basically like an audio recording of a person talking in modern day terms, talking about psychological things and how we are more than what we actually perceive to be. I mean, it's like some, like, you know, very philosophical stuff.
Yeah, kind of esoteric conversation.
Yeah. And like this world is more than what we see it. It's more than what we perceive. We can actually control this world more than what we think. We just have been, you know, held back by whatever reasons, kind of thing. And I was like, okay, so this is weird. Sure. And then they give me this armor. So I get this armor that looks like alien armor. And I will equip that, and I look like a badass. Now, to my knowledge, this armor does nothing. Which was kind of a big letdown to me. I'm like, really? Like, you can't just like say, oh, you don't take fall damage anymore. Which would be, it's not necessarily a broken thing, but this took probably about 6 hours worth of work to do. And that was with me going by a fac.
Yeah, wasting no time.
Yeah. And I'm just like, it's still cool. In fact, I'm going to wear it for the rest of the game. But I was like, Don't think it was worth it. But I'll tell you what it was worth. Was the tons of XP I got while doing these little adventures. Because every time you discover a region, you gain XP. Every time you finish a tomb, you gain XP. And I leveled up probably about to level 24 just by running around.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So...
They set you on that path since we did 10 levels to go here.
Yeah. On top of that, while I was running around doing these tombs, I also ran into another quest. I found this quest to be interesting because it was completely a different color than any other thing in the game as far as the quest marker goes. It was blue. And it just wanted me to stand on this cliff and observe something. So I stand on this cliff. A meteor comes down from out of the sky and crashes into the sand. I go to investigate it. It reveals a new tomb. So I go to this tomb and it has the Roman numeral 15 on it. And I'm like, okay, this is a puzzle. So I went back outside and you have to, there's like a sundial where you have to get the sun to align properly and these little things open up and you have to shoot them with arrows. And then you run back down and I get the weirdest friggin' cutscene ever. So there's a dude who is encased in what looks like ice or crystal who breaks out, and there's another being that's flying in the air that shoots a bunch of swords down at him, and he then disappears and flies off into the night, and there's a sword and shield left right there. I pick it up, and it's the sword and shield from Final Fantasy 15. It was a character from Final Fantasy 15, and I was like, oh, okay. I vaguely remember somebody talking about Final Fantasy stuff in this game. I was like, okay. But, yeah, I got the sword and shield from Final Fantasy 15. On top of that, I also got one more thing. I have a new mount. It's Chocobo.
Wow.
I have a Chocobo.
In Assassin's Creed.
In Assassin's Creed. In space armor.
So do you know was it that entire series of quests and all the constellations that led to your ability to see the meteor, or was that just random?
No. I'm pretty sure that was just some kind of like special event quest that they added for Final Fantasy 15. Apparently, this game and Final Fantasy 15 came out around the same time.
Yep.
And they just had like a little collaboration event, and that was what they did. No, this I don't think this had anything to do with that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of stuff happened in my playthrough.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing, actually. I mean, that's almost a half a game's length of content that you just did almost randomly and not necessarily, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't plan on any of this. I just went to the Sphinx and said, oh, I wonder what happens if I do this. And then I did that. And I said, I wonder what happens if I do this. And then I got that armor. And then I was just roaming around and ran into a Final Fantasy character and then went and killed some dudes. By the time I made it to the Scarab, I was like level 24 and I was just mowing guys down.
Yeah, I imagine they didn't expect too many people would have done that just before that series of assassination targets.
Yes. So I technically broke the game for the next 3 targets. Not necessarily meaning to. It was just like, oh, I'm getting XP for this and this and this and this and oh, I leveled up.
Yeah, it never feels like too much when you're just walking around normally, but if you stack up that type of a globe-spanning or region-spanning adventure, yeah, it certainly can add up.
When you travel the entirety of Egypt, yes, you're now well experienced. So, did you do any of exploration at all, Matt? Besides just climbing the pyramids?
Not really, not anywhere near that extent. I've just done some roaming around, looking for question marks. Right, whenever I see question marks on the map, I'll tend to trek out to them and see what's up. But that's about it. I haven't done anything kind of more than that, or more exotic than that for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I do suggest at least just roaming around every once in a while. I'd go to a new region and say, all right, give me a point where I can like fast travel to. So that way, just in case I need to come back here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the way I've been handling the new places as well.
And that's actually really helped me out as far as, I've got these 4 quests. I've now got to go to a new region. Oh, well, I've already been there, so I can just kind of fast travel to it now.
Yep.
So
which is nice because the more it sprawls, the worse it would be. But they do make travel in this game pretty easy, as you kind of mentioned last week.
Yeah. So I'm fine with cutting a lot of the fat out of the stuff whenever it gets to brass tacks. So that's exactly what I did. So I just traveled the world, getting fast travel points, so that way when the time comes I'll need to play through the game itself, I can just fast travel there. So, yeah. So the Scarab, first one on the list. Obviously, we try to figure out who this person is. We get these rumors. We always get these little cutscenes showing these people wearing their masks. And yeah, the Scarab is pretty hardcore. If anybody kind of gets in his way, he will take you out to the desert and bury you in the sand up to your head and let you just die.
Yeah, I was wondering how many of those people die from just dehydration versus getting like eaten by animals.
I would assume that's a good question. I would assume probably dehydration or possibly even suffocation, because couldn't you suffocate pretty easily that way?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. If the wind's blowing, it can blow all the sand right in your face. You can't clear your face.
Yeah.
I mean, they do make a comment at one point about how long you'll last, or how long a person would last, and so it leads me to think that it's mostly just dehydrating and dying of nothing else needed. But,
right.
But I'm sure some people get eaten. You can't really. I mean, you can't stop anything from doing anything if your hands are underground.
Right. So the first little piece of information that we get is that there was a man who was kidnapped and tortured by the Scarab, who's being held in this area. So we go and rescue that man, and unfortunately he can't talk to us because he has had his tongue ripped out. Yeah, they cut off his tongue. But they do mention that we should go. So we take him back to his family, and his daughter is there. And his daughter suggests, why don't you go find my husband? He can probably help you out with that. So we go search out this man, and he is kind of like trying to take over this small city by being like a protector. Bandits keep coming into town, and during this time, bandits come into town during a sandstorm. So we have to help him by fighting off these bandits during the sandstorm. This game I thought glitched on me for a second because I killed everybody there, and the guy still just stood there. And I was like, are we done? What are we doing? But he finally kind of got out of that.
I think this was the fight. I actually had quite a lot of problems with this fight.
Oh, really?
This is the one where you're kind of half inside a building, and it's get the sandstorm, and you're kind of on the middle of a sand dune, and there's people around the pillars.
Yep.
Yeah, this one probably took me over 10 tries.
Really?
Yep. I was not getting one hit killed, but it was basically 3 hits and I was dead. And, any one of those clowns I could take out 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 pretty easily, but, at some points there was 3 or 4 or 5, and sometimes this guy that we're with, Taharka, is distracting them, and sometimes they ignore him and come after me. And anytime there'd be 3 or 4, I just a little too eager to get an extra hit in, and then I'd get comboed and die. So I don't know. Took a little while for sure, but actually I had to set my controller down and like walk away for a half hour.
Oh snap!
Then
you got a little upset with it, did you?
No, not really upset with it. I was just like, look, I'm not getting any close. Like, so the first time I went in and got killed. The second time I went in and I got like all the way through and then died at the next section, and it put me back. And then the next like 8 to 10 times in a row, I barely got in there and I died. I'm like, look, I'm just not getting any better at this at the moment. So it was a little bit frustration, but mostly like I just need to clear my head. Yeah. Came back a half hour later, and like per the norm, like I beat out my first try.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. The one thing I have to give this game, criticize this game for, is the fact that while you're exploring, and if you die while exploring, it starts you back relatively close to where you were. But if you're in a mission, get ready to go back a ways. And I'm just like, oh man, really? I'm back here? I didn't get like a checkpoint in between there somewhere?
Yeah, that hit me here, but yeah, it's hit me once or twice elsewhere in the game as well.
But but after fighting off the bandits, he's like, all right, you've proven yourself to me, I'll help you out. I'll try and help you find this scarab guy. He's like, well, let's go back to the house. We'll have a nice dinner, and we'll talk over dinner. Okay. At that point, I was thinking, so, all right. Before this, I started noticing a pattern. I noticed the pattern of, we need to find somebody and assassinate them, right? Well, we never know who the person is. And I was thinking to myself, right before this series, wouldn't it be interesting if you never knew who the person was until the very end and you thought it was an ally? And lo and behold, Bayek sits down for dinner. He's sitting with the guy's child and his wife and, well, the poor grandpa that had his tongue cut out. And he pours you some wine. Bayek drinks the wine and starts to feel a little woozy, passes out, and when he wakes up, he's in the middle of the desert, buried up to his head in sand.
I like that there was no interim here either.
Yeah, there was
it goes straight from him passing out to him being buried.
That was probably one of the best parts about it, because usually you get that whole seeing him like being drugged while being dragged away or something like that. Nope, it was pass out and then immediately wake up in the desert buried. And I was like, you did it, you sly devils. And I was like, all right. I at this point I was like, this is awesome. I was like, this is fantastic. And then so you take over as Bayek in the desert, and you're just like, all right, so what do I do? So I was like, all right, well, I can call Sinew. So I called my bird, and I was like, that's not doing anything. I was thinking maybe I send the bird to help. You'll get help. And then finally the game said, hey, idiot, call your friggin' horse.
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay.
Same thing for me.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. So I called my chocobo. And my chocobo came and had pulled me out. And at that point we were like, all right, well, we know who it is. I'm going to go kill him now.
Yep.
And I feel like the setups are better than the assassinations in this game. Because I've done more assassinations than you have, and I can safely say that the assassinations in this game, with the exception of one for this play session, are a little bit lackluster. Just a little bit. Because it always just feels like, oh, they're in this area that you've been into before. All you have to do is just go find them and kill them. and he's going to be heavily guarded, so, obviously you expect a fight. And I'm like, okay. But it feels like the setups to these assassinations are far more interesting than the assassination itself. Is that how you feel?
I mean, I would agree with that, but I haven't felt that as much of that connection to the setups. I do think they're better than the assassinations. What I get from the assassinations, I still like, and it's kind of what I like about the game, because you can end up just in some of these fights where you can pick people off here and there and kind of wind your way to the end boss sometimes, or accidentally kill somebody. Aside from the one that does feel more like a boss fight. So I mean, they're okay. I kind of wish they were more like set pieces, but even without that, I guess they're a way to advance the story as it is. So I guess I'm generally fine with the assassinations, but the setups themselves, I enjoy them, except that, as I mentioned right before we recorded, that I don't feel like I'm spending much time in them. Like that scene where you're sitting down with Taharka's family, I wanted more of that during the setup.
Yeah. And I understand where you're coming from. You don't get to care about these villains long enough to care about killing them.
Exactly. Whether they're bad, and I really don't get that texture of how shitty are people's lives because this person's come in as some kind of baron and ruined their lives and taken every tiny cent that they've earned. I don't get that desperation, that feel. So when I kill them, they're just another character, just another enemy to kill. And even this one, where you've kind of been betrayed a bit, I never felt close enough to feel betrayal.
Yeah,
it was a cool twist, sure, but when most of my game is wandering around killing crocodiles out in the swamps and climbing towers and attacking camps of bandits, and then I just go and I have a kind of a key story mission. It just seems to come out of nowhere. And again, maybe that's just the way that open world games are, because there's so much else to do. You can't tighten up the narrative as much, and I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm actually liking this game a lot more than I was intending to, and I'm a lot more okay with doing kind of the random stuff for an hour or two on a given night. But but it does lose some of that gravitas on the big missions.
Yeah,
I think because of that.
I fear though that if we extended the investigations of who this person is, it would bog down the game, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it would make it way more linear, right? And it would cut away from the amount of time that you're exploring this really cool environment.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm not even sure I want more of it. I'm just also not sure if I should be I kind of feel like I should be feeling more when I'm playing it. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be feeling more. I don't know. I'm certainly enjoying it. I'm just not feeling emotionally invested in it at all.
Yeah, I feel like... I hate to say it, but I feel like the story kind of takes second fiddle to the exploration in this game. And that may be the case with the majority of the Assassin's Creeds. I mean, granted, I only played 3 of them. But... I don't know. That's a. I don't know how to remedy that. That's the problem. It's like I don't know.
Yeah,
exactly. I have no idea how to make the villains more memorable to where it actually means something when you kill them.
And I mean, there's a lot of little things you can do, and maybe they even are doing in this game, and I just haven't heard them. But like, you could always have more people, more of the NPCs, just kind of talking about things. But who really pays attention to them anyway?
No, they're just in my way.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's almost in its way a nice distraction from not having to care as much about the characters. I mean, this isn't like The Last of Us or God of War, all these big like single player story driven games that not necessarily live or die on the story, but it's just a much bigger component of the package. Here
Yeah.
it's there and it's there and it's a part of it. It's just a smaller part.
Yeah.
Which again, kind of right now I'm okay with. I don't need more story. I just am wondering if this is all there is story wise, or if I'm gonna find something to click with. Because this was a kind of a cool twist here, but I don't know. Like my favorite moments, character wise, as we said last week, are those moments right after you assassinate someone, and you really get like their fears, the
Right.
bad guy's fears. That's not something that comes up at all before you kill them, really. And so, the whole emotional heft of this character comes after I kill someone, and for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that was a really nice, tiny vignette, and I kind of wish there was a little more of it, but I kind of agree that it might change the pacing and change the game too much.
Yeah, you're right. But well, needless to say, I didn't have any problem killing the scarab. He was actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
Granted, at this point, I was over-leveled.
Yeah, I didn't have any problem with him. I mean, I didn't have any problem anywhere in the game as much as I did in that one section with the bandits in the sand.
So we actually take a break from Bayek for a second. After killing the scarab. Which I should mention, when we kill the scarab, his whole family walks in. Including his son. He's like, "You killed my dad." And he's like, "Yeah, well, he was a piece of shit."
Yeah, my big question there was whether Bayek was going to feel remorse at all. And whether they were going to tie that a little bit to his family having fallen apart in the past. Right, in the opposite direction. He lost his kid, but there was almost a nice kind of inverse synergy there that they could have played with. But he was basically just like, raise your kid better. Raise your kid, to go on a different path than his father was on.
Yeah. So, I think we get to take over for Aya, and we get a taste of the I guess the old Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag combat, because it's all boat
which
combat.
Was pretty cool.
And Aya is out to rendezvous with, oh man, who is it? It's Pompeius Magnus. Pompeius Magnus, is that who it is?
I think so.
Who was another one of those guys who got part of the kingdom of Alexander the Great, right?
Yep.
I thought. Because she is wanting to basically bribe him into helping out Cleopatra's cause. It was mainly just a bunch of sea combat, which I thought was pretty good. I didn't mind it.
Pretty strong change of pace. I kind of liked it. It wasn't very hard, I thought.
No.
I mean, the only thing you really do is dodge arrow volleys, shoot arrows, and then when you get close enough, shoot your firebombs.
Yep. Or ram the boat.
Yeah, or ram.
But, did all that. And then cut back to Bayek. Taking on the hyena. Which, is the hyena in Memphis? Or no? That's the lizard.
Yeah, I think the hyena was before. It wasn't It wasn't Latopolis, was it?
I can't remember.
Oh no, this is right near the. We usually start right at the base of the pyramids.
Yeah, that's right. But the hyena one seems like it's a very quick one. There's no like real investigation.
Yeah, and there was a part of an investigation that somehow I finished without even knowing it. Because you kind of go into that little like mountaintop village. Not really a village even, just like the mountaintop fort. Where you've got some hyenas in cages and some packs roaming at the base. But somewhere in there, I think there was a tiny investigation that all of a sudden it said I had completed. I didn't even know how.
Yeah, it was basically the hyena is controlling like the merchants and the trade there. And one of the merchants that you help tells us that she has a place out in the mountains.
Yep.
And when I first ran into it, it gave me the, you know, when you reach a new area, you have to like kill like a boss animal. And I saw a boss animal, which was a hyena. I'm like, oh, I get it. He sent us on a wild goose chase to go kill this hyena, like an actual hyena. But I was like, no, there's actually something up here.
Yeah, I love that was his joke. When he takes payment at the beginning, he's like, I'll tell you what I know. Hyena's not her real name.
Yeah. Sucker.
Hilarious.
Haha. Gotcha. But, yeah. So going up there, we noticed that there's a lot of ancient texts and descriptions of a certain tomb. So we decided to go and check out that tomb, thinking that the hyena may have went there. And sure enough, when we get there, there is some type of ritual that's being taking place. When we investigate, it seems as if somebody has been trying to resurrect someone using these strange rituals from the ancient times. Is what Bayek says. And with using the aforementioned silica. And as we are investigating this, we get ambushed by the hyena, which is a woman who has been trying to get a hold of as much silica as possible via the trade routes that she's been trying to control. So that way she could resurrect her daughter who died. And we ruined the ritual, apparently. And she gets really mad about that. So we have not an assassination attempt. We have an actual boss fight in this game.
Yep.
Which was a complete change of pace. I did not realize that they had boss fights in this game. And so she hides in a sandstorm again. Oh, another sandstorm. And is firing arrows at us. And we have to figure out where she is by watching the arrows come toward us and then chasing after her to attack her. She's got like a large health bar. It's straight up a boss fight. I was like, okay. But after taking her out, we get another one of those like death cutscenes, basically of like, look, you can't bring your daughter back, and you screwed over a whole lot of people and killed a whole lot of people just to try and get this done. And basically, what you're doing is sacrilege.
Yeah, and again, I was kind of like, man, just think about all those people that have been screwed. Think about the reach of that greed, and that, like, I mean, I guess self-centeredness.
Matt, I believe your mic muted.
Yeah, sorry, my mic's being a pain.
Anyway, the greed and
Yeah,
self-centeredness.
and just all the people she screwed over, like that, that really could have been a bigger story, right? Instead of just saying, "Hey, this is a person who's, totemically using the hyena as their mascot." What did we get early on in that kind of quest line or quest to really make us be okay killing her? I don't know.
I completely agree. This one, this one assassination or target just felt almost glossed over compared to the rest.
Yeah, especially when once again, I think trying to bring the daughter back from the dead is something that, hey, Bayek maybe could reflect on. He himself has a dead child
Yeah.
that he may have wanted to resurrect at some point. There's no pet cemeteries around there. And, that's such a strong parallel to his biggest grief and the thing that drives him in literally this entire game. How do you not draw more connections there?
I don't know.
I
That's
mean,
a that's a
again,
good
I don't want to
point.
harp on it because it doesn't bother me, or I don't see it as a negative anyway. It's just as soon as I saw that, I'm like, man, this could have been so much. It could have been such a big part. I wonder how many. Maybe this is too broad a question, but how many assassinations are there per Assassin's Creed? And is there any way that we think it would have been better or different had there been more like 4 or 5 rather than, I don't know how many there are, 10 or 12?
No, I don't know. That's a good question, and I cannot answer it because I cannot remember. But
Yeah, I don't even remember how many I assassinated in the first game. I think 2 or 3, and I was maybe 20 or 30% of the way in. So again, maybe 10. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you could have lesser targets or fewer targets, and it would you could flesh out those targets a little bit more. But
But this one especially, I mean, somebody whose child has died and kind of goes crazy trying to bring them back. Well, I mean that's almost Bayek. To have him not even, I don't remember, maybe he did do it, but I don't remember him reflecting at all like, I understand your pain, or I would have done this myself if I could have, or anything along those lines.
that's true.
He's merciless. He's cold.
Yeah, he doesn't take any
Bayek.
crap.
Yeah.
But the next target is the Lizard, who is now in Memphis. So now we go to Memphis.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been back to Memphis.
Been back to Memphis.
Walking in Memphis.
Walking in Memphis, indeed. But did you do anything here?
I just explored, really. I think I started the next quest, but really just spent the time wandering around.
Gotcha.
I got excited. I think the front gates that you see are actually what they styled the Memphis Zoo gates after around.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I wanna bring up some pictures and see how closely they correlate. Maybe it was just themed, Egyptian themed, and I just assumed that it was based on this in Memphis. But now that Memphis the city and Memphis the place in this game at least have some similarities, I don't know. Kind of cool.
Memphis, Egypt was famous for its big walls, right? And they have the 2 massive walls.
Certainly in game.
I thought.
In real life, still.
All right. As far as I'm assuming, I guess Memphis, Tennessee is named after Memphis,
Yeah,
Egypt.
Must be.
I would assume. Kind of like how Athens, Georgia is Greece.
Which that actually, I think when I left Athens, Georgia, for that one time, I said leaving Athens, and I didn't realize that for months somebody thought I had been to Greece.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yep. It's like, well, it was a fun trip. It's not that exotic. It wasn't Greece.
No, you were right there in the outer parts of the northeast Georgia mountains. The only thing that city really has going for us, the University of Georgia. But I guess that's where we'll stop. I did do the lizard, and after that you move on to the crocodile. I will mention that all of my leveling and experience caught up to me as soon as I hit the crocodile missions. Yeah.
What level were you? Were you still over leveled at that point?
At the point of finishing the lizard, I was over leveled, but as soon as I killed the lizard, it popped up saying, "Oh, you need to be level 28 for this," and I was 24 at the time.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, because they were in red, like, you may want to level up once or twice here. So I was like, okay, yeah. So I had to do a few side missions to get to the crocodile. I'm currently halfway through the crocodile missions. But yeah, we'll leave off with that. We do have 2 emails this week.
Oh, nice.
The first one comes in from Jeff. It's titled Assassin's Creed Origins. It says, I have a very unpopular opinion in regards to this game and the series as a whole. I have played and enjoyed every Assassin's Creed game. This one, however, is my hands-down favorite. My enjoyment of these games comes down to 2 elements. First, the setting/time period, and secondly, how heavily it leans into the Assassins versus Templars narrative. I think this game has my favorite open world in the series, which was such a mix of environments from desert to extravagant cities to lush forests. I always enjoyed Egyptian lore and architecture, so it really landed with me in that way. I thought the relationship between Bayek and his wife was very compelling. It was also a very cool origin story for the Brotherhood of Assassins, right down to the origin of the logo at the end. I got platinums for Origins and Valhalla. This is where I'm really going to get criticized. Odyssey didn't land with me at all. The story of the Assassins was completely left out of this game. It was just an island after island with no real story involving the Assassins. Had the game been called 300, then maybe we had a new hit IP on our hands. But it wasn't a good Assassin's Creed game, in my opinion. Don't at me, in Ken's voice. Love the show, guys. Listen every week. Peace, Jeff from Alabama. Thank you, Jeff, for that email.
Yeah, I was almost going to wonder, because for me, the Egyptian setting is a huge part of this game for me as well.
Absolutely.
I just love wandering around and, again, seeing the Sphinx, seeing the pyramids, and then now seeing the architecture in Memphis. Like, that all is just really, really compelling stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm loving it. And I wonder if Odyssey loses that because there have been a few more Greek games, Greek settings.
That's true. If I'm being completely honest with you, I feel like I know more about Egyptian, ancient Egyptian lore than I do Greek lore. I have no idea when Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes place.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's after Origins, but when
Yeah, I assume so.
when was, ancient Greece? Are we talking Julius Caesar times? Do you assassinate Julius Caesar in Odyssey? Because that would be kind of funny. I remember Assassin's Creed Syndicate, took place in the Victoria, London, and there was straight up just, I'm pretty sure it was a DLC for Jack the Ripper. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. And I was like, that sounds awesome. I kind of want to play that. I own it, and maybe I will it one day. I don't know. But when does Assassin's Creed?
I'm just thinking like between God of War and the one Xbox One game that I had for ages, the Rise or Reese or however you say that game. And then Rome Total War. I feel like there's just a lot more Roman set games than there are Egyptian set games.
Oh. Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes place during the Peloponnesian War, which occurred throughout 431 to 404 BC. So this takes place before Assassin's Creed Origins.
Yeah, because we were at, what, like 60?
No, we're at 47 BC,
40.
or 43 BC. So this takes place, a long, long time. When the hell was Julius Caesar? I have to know now. I'm sorry.
'60 BC. He was around.
Okay.
Forming a political alliance, it says. Born in 100 BC, died in 44 BC.
Gotcha.
He's 5'7" tall.
Yep. Dude named his daughter Julius Caesarus. Come on, dude. Who does he think he is? George Foreman?
I assume we'll find out at some point.
No.
Could be in this game.
Well, I say that because George Foreman named all his children George. In some form or fashion, I believe. But yeah, no, this is a hardcore history lesson for me because I don't remember half this from high school. So, while I do find history fascinating, and I feel like Assassin's Creed does a really good job of going back in time and kind of trying to put you in that world at that time.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely does.
I find that fascinating. But, yeah. Next email. I gotta bring it up. I forgot. Closed out of my Gmail, and that's what I get. This one comes in from Chad. And his title is called I Was Walking in Memphis.
Classic.
There it is. It says, howdy crew. So by now you should have met Cleopatra and are working on your second list of targets. You may even be done with your second set of targets. Although the second set of targets aren't the most memorable bad guys ever, I still found them pretty interesting with their own distinct motives. In the Assassin's Creed games, the Templars or Order members usually have a fairly benevolent goal mixed up with their nefarious means of execution. For example, the Scarab wanted to build towns and prosperity for his people. However, he was very secretive, murdered and tortured many, and even cut out his own father-in-law's tongue to keep his secrets and reach his goals. Interestingly, the event surrounding the Scarab actually pops up again in the first DLC a little bit in an interesting way. The hyena was trying to uncover the secrets of the ancient first civilization that created man, so that she could resurrect her daughter. Ironically, the lizard... well, should I talk about this or hold off?
Yeah, you can. I mean, this isn't... I'm not on the edge of my seat waiting to figure out the lizard's backstory.
Okay. Ironically, the lizard was a priest who didn't believe in the gods and rituals and was trying to undermine the temple because he thought the old religions misled and deluded the minds of the people. I'm not going to talk about the crocodile.
That's a pretty good story.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good character motive.
The problem is you only see any of this for probably 45 minutes tops.
Yeah.
So, Says I'm not going to talk about the crocodile yet because I'm not sure everyone has got that far. If you're enjoying the game, you may also want to consider the DLC if you have it. The events of this game take place immediately before the Greco-Roman occupation, whereas the DLC takes place for years after the end of the main story, during the beginning of the Greco-Roman occupation. So I lost my place. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a crucifixion at one point, although not the one you were probably thinking of. It also opens up a new small map for the Sinai Peninsula. The second DLC takes place during the same period, 4 years after the main story, and opens up 2 new maps, one of which is pretty ethereal and fascinating as hell. Also, there are some mummy-like things to fight, so it does get a little fantastical, similar to the big snake battle about halfway through the game. So, spoilers.
Does that big snake have a big face?
Well, speaking of which, wouldn't that snake battle have been so much better if it had Bayek's face on it?
It definitely would have.
The first DLC takes about 5 hours to complete, and the second one about 10 hours. I was also thinking about another idea for the Assassin's Creed series I would like to see, but I'm not sure how well it would do. I like that they are not releasing the new big Assassin's Creed game every 2 years instead of annually. However, I think an AC spinoff would be interesting for the off years. In between the main series titles, I think it would be kind of cool if they released a Resident Evil Revelations episodic type game. Each episode would feature a small scripted animus sequence with an ancestor, maybe bringing back an old Assassin's Creed protagonist for a short sequence, while starting and ending with a modern day story event. People could complain about the modern day stuff in the AC games, and they have been streamlining and scaling that back over the years. But there are a lot of people like me that follow the modern day stuff and love it. Having a modern day bite-sized story in between the main entries seems like it would cater to all fans of the series. Just a thought. Till next time, Chad. Well, thank you for that, Chad. And to be honest with you, as much as I am loving this game, because I do love this game a lot, I'm considering buying the DLC. Obviously, we won't do it for Phoenix Down, but in my off time, I think I would really enjoy playing the 2 DLCs they released. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like I said, I'm having a ball with this game. I am, because I spent roughly around 6 hours just running around this place, just doing random stuff. I did have a goal. I wanted to see what happened at the Sphinx's tomb. But I had a lot of fun just doing that. It wasn't just me looking at a map and going to a FAQ and doing this and that and doing this and that. I had a good time doing it. So I for some reason, I can't really tell you what that reason is, this game has scratched that itch for me. Like, I am legit enjoying the crap out of this game. Like, it's one of my, I said it on Twitter, I'll say it here too. I feel like this is one of my top 20 games of all time, kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, granted, the story is not the best in the world. The characters are okay. I like Bayek all right. I like his wife all right. The villains are kind of meh. But the world itself, I freaking love this world. The way this game is structured,
me too.
And everything like that. Like, that's why I feel like, you know, I'm probably going to fall in love with Odyssey when I play it, because, you know, I'm not the biggest part of the story. You know, I'm more of the exploration, and if that game's got that, then I'm all in. So, Matt, what about you? You still on board with it?
Yeah, definitely still on board with it. Again, liking it more than I thought I would, and just overall really liking it. Maybe not quite as much as you are, but I love wandering around this world. I love exploring. I love the combat, and I kind of love Egypt in the game. So I mean, all of that's been really fun to just kind of explore, and this is got an interesting mix for me of, again, being able to sit down and play for 20 minutes again, or being able to sit down and play for 2 hours, and either one feels equally as kind of comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's really good for me because I never really know on a given night how much I'm going to be able to play. So I've never turned the console off and felt unsatisfied with a gameplay session, and that's really good because even games I love sometimes I don't feel like I've made any progress, or I feel like I've wasted time, or I don't know, for whatever reason I might not have enjoyed a given play session. That hasn't happened at all in this game.
Right. Yeah. I think it's I don't know how to explain why I fell in love with this game. I think it's just the setting and the exploration and the little carrot on the stick of finding this one thing and then stumbling upon something and just be like, oh my gosh, what the heck is this? So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it will. Like, the game started off kind of narrow, and then it broadened out, and I think toward the end it's going to get narrow again. Like, we're going to try and get a little bit
save Aya from something.
Yeah, get a little closer to something kind of big, I think.
Yeah.
So
that if it did that, it would elevate it even more for me.
Yeah, and I think it will. But yeah, that's going to be it for us. If you'd like to send us an email, please do. It's drew@ztgd.com. You can also tweet to us. I am at DMLFury. Matt is at REMGS, and the podcast itself is at ZTGD Phoenix Down. But that's going to be it for us. I don't know where we're going to make it to next week. So, full disclosure, I'll be able to record next week. The week after next, I'm not going to be able to play any of this game. I'm not going to be able to do anything as far as recording goes because I am going to be gone on vacation. So, I'm going to put as much time as I can into this game. Possibly beat it this week. But if you can't, Matt, that's totally okay too. So,
let me see what I can do.
I'm just going to try and to get as far as I can in it.
Yep.
For the next recording, at least. But yeah, that's going to be it for us. I appreciate everybody listening. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as we are. But until next time, I am Drew,
and I'm Matt,
and we're gone. Hope you guys have a great week. And we'll be back next week with the continuation of Assassin's Creed Origins.